Ever feel like you're just stuck, thinking-wise, I mean? Even when something, maybe evidence is telling you, hey, maybe rethink this. You want to get smart, get the real insights, but wading through tons of info, it feels like, well, a lot.
It really can be overwhelming.
So consider this your shortcut. Welcome to the deep dive. We grapple with the sources so you don't have to, pulling out the key stuff.
And today, we're diving right into the power and, let's be honest, the difficulty of rethinking.
Yeah, all thanks to Adam Grant's book, Think Again.
Right. We've got the lowdown from a pretty detailed review, and its Goodreads page came out early 2021.
And it sits right at that crossroads of nonfiction, psychology, self-help.
Business, personal development, leadership.
Right.
It covers a lot of ground.
It really does. And Grant, he's an organizational psychologist, top professor at Wharton. He's tackling this core human thing, isn't he?
Exactly. Sticking to our guns, believing things, even when they're maybe past their sell-by date. His whole focus is on mental agility, how we can actually get better at reevaluating what we think we know.
Okay, so that's our mission today. Let's pull out those essentials. Why is rethinking so vital now? What stops us?
And crucially, how can we actually do it better?
Yes, we want those aha moments, those surprising bits and stuff you can actually use without the brain ache.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, let's unpack it. Starting with something I think we've all seen or maybe even done, overconfidence.
Yeah, the Goodreads review actually kicks off with a great quote from Bertrand Russell. Something like,
oh, the one about the stupid being cocksure and the intelligent full of doubt.
That's the one, and it feels so spot on for today, doesn't it?
It really does. It's funny, we're quick to see it in others, but ourselves, maybe not so much.
That's the blind spot, right. And it's not just a feeling, there's actual research.
Which brings us to Dunning-Kruger.
The Goodreads page mentions it. Studies show, basically, the less you know, the more you think you know. You overestimate like crazy.
While the real experts, they're often more humble, more aware of what they don't know.
Exactly. It's like climbing a mountain of knowledge. The higher you get, the more you see how vast the landscape really is.
And the internet age.
No.
Does that make it worse?
Well, Grant suggests it can, yeah. We skim headlines, get a superficial grasp, and suddenly feel like experts.
Right. That quick hit of info gives this illusion of understanding.
Creates that unjustified overconfidence he talks about. It's like you climb that first little hill, Mount Stupid, some call it.
Mount Stupid.
And you feel on top of the world, but you're nowhere near the actual peak of understanding.
We've all seen it online. People confidently spouting off about things they barely grasp. Maybe we've done it ourselves.
Guilty as charged, probably. And interestingly, just being smart doesn't make you immune.
Really? How so?
Well, Grant talks about this I'm not biased bias. Highly intelligent people might be more prone to it.
Wait, why?
Maybe because they trust their own thinking process so much, they assume they're objective, they don't see their own biases.
So being good at thinking can actually make you worse at rethinking.
That's the paradox the review mentions, yeah. Your strengths become blind spots if you're not careful.
Okay. So our brains are kind of wired for overconfidence. What specific mindsets block us from hitting pause and rethinking?
Grant points out three main problematic ones. The preacher, the prosecutor, and the politician.
Preacher, prosecutor, politician. Okay.
We're in preacher mode when we're just trying to sell our own beliefs, convert everyone.
Got it, like proselytizing.
Then there's the prosecutor always looking for flaws in other people's arguments, trying to poke holes.
Right, attack mode.
And the politician. That's about winning approval, gaining support, maybe bending your views to fit the crowd.
Yeah, I recognize those.
Yeah.
Definitely seen them in action. Maybe been there myself.
We all have, probably.
So if those are the traps, what's the alternative? The better way?
Grant really champions the scientist mindset.
Okay, the scientist. What does that look like?
It's about leading with curiosity, not conviction, asking questions first, being willing to change your mind based on evidence.
So less arguing to win, more learning.
Exactly. The review puts it nicely. Searching for reasons why we might be wrong, not for reasons why we must be right. Actively open-minded.
Actively open-minded. I like that. But man, it sounds hard. Why is it so hard to do, even when facts are staring you in the face?
Well, the book mentions the totalitarian ego.
The what now?
Totalitarian ego. It's like our internal self-image acts like a dictator, censoring information that threatens our beliefs or how we see ourselves.
Like a defense mechanism, protecting the ego.
Totally. It shields us from uncomfortable truths, keeps our internal narrative nice and tidy. Your own personal PR agent, spinning things.
Huh. The internal spin doctor. Okay. But it's not just internal, right? The outside world plays a part too.
Oh, absolutely. We get stuck in these overconfidence cycles. Filter bubbles online feed us what we already believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then echo chambers where everyone we talk to agrees with us, just validate it all.
It builds this fortress around our ideas. Makes it really tough to see outside.
Especially when we tie our opinions so closely to our identity. Admitting you're wrong about an idea feels like admitting you are wrong, fundamentally.
Oof. Yeah.
That's a tough one.
But there's that quote from Daniel Kahneman.
The psychologist.
Yeah, he said something like, being wrong is the only way I feel sure I've learned anything.
Wow. That's a different way to look at it. Not failure, but learning.
Exactly. It reframes the whole thing.
Okay, so if we manage to get past the overconfidence, dodge those mind traps, what's the goal? What's that sweet spot?
Grant calls it confident humility.
Confident humility. Tell me more.
It's this balance, right? You have faith in your ability, your potential to figure things out.
Okay.
But you also recognize that your current knowledge, your current methods might be wrong or incomplete.
So confidence in your ability to learn, but humility about what you currently know.
You got it. Believing you can find the answer, but questioning if you have it yet. Real strength isn't certainty. It's the courage to question yourself. Confident humility. I like that phrase. Self-assured, but not arrogant. Open to flaws.
And Grant even finds a surprising upside to something we usually think is bad. Imposter syndrome.
Really. Feeling like a fraud has an upside.
Well, a manageable level of it, apparently. That bit of self-doubt can actually push you.
How so?
It can make you work harder, prepare more, question your assumptions more critically, seek out feedback.
Huh. So that nagging feeling isn't always bad.
Right. As one psychologist said, learning requires humility knowing you have something to learn. Crippling doubt is bad, sure, but that imposter phenomenon feeling can be a motivator.
So the great thinkers, they aren't doubt-free. They just handle it differently.
That seems to be the idea. They doubt because they know everyone's view is incomplete, and they want to see more clearly. They're more interested in what they don't know.
Okay, this is good stuff. So how do we, actively cultivate this? How do we get better at rethinking day to day?
One big step is detaching your present self from your past self.
Meaning?
Recognizing that who you were, what you believed back then, that's not necessarily who you are or what you know now, allows you to update your views without feeling like you're betraying yourself.
Okay. It's about growth, not being stuck. That was then, this is now, I've learned more.
Precisely. The book mentions this forecaster, Jean-Pierre Boubams, as a great example.
Boubams, what did he do?
He apparently thinks like a scientist. He's described as passionately dispassionate, changed his mind on big things like politics and religion over time.
Wow. So not tied to one tribe or idea.
His loyalty was to the truth, wherever it led. He saw his opinions as temporary hypotheses, ready to be updated.
And the book points out this paradox about great scientists and forecasters. They're comfortable being wrong.
Yeah, but it's not because they don't care. It's because they care about being right in the long run. They know that getting there means admitting and fixing errors along the way. Like Jeff Bezos said, people who are right a lot, they listen a lot, and they change their minds a lot.
Long-term accuracy beats short-term ego. That makes sense. There was that story about the astronomer too, right? Andrew Lyne?
Oh, yeah. He admitted he was wrong about discovering a planet in public.
What happened?
Standing ovation. His peers respected his honesty, his commitment to science over ego. It wasn't seen as failure, but integrity.
That's powerful. Being able to say, I messed up, takes guts.
It really does. It's like that Will Smith quote mentioned about taking responsibility is taking your power back, even if it wasn't your fault.
Okay, so being open to being wrong.
Yeah.
That leads naturally into the next idea, doesn't it? Constructive conflict.
Exactly. It's not about avoiding disagreement. It's about making it productive.
How do you do that?
Grant talks about building a challenge network.
A challenge network, like people who challenge you.
Yep. People you trust to poke holes in your thinking, point out your blind spots. Ideally, they're kind of disagreeable.
Disagreeable, you mean annoying.
Huh. Not necessarily annoying, but not afraid to speak up, to question things, even if it's uncomfortable. They foster task conflict.
Task conflict. As opposed to?
Relationship conflict. Task conflict is about the work, the ideas. Relationship conflict gets personal, nasty.
Ah, okay. Focusing on the problem, not the person.
Exactly. The book mentions Brad Bird and John Walker making The Incredibles. They apparently argued intensely about details.
It worked?
Yeah, because they shared the goal of making a great movie. Their fights were productive. The Wright brothers, too, they debated fiercely, got awfully hot, but it didn't break their partnership.
Okay, so disagreement can actually fuel better results if it's done right. But how do we handle those talks?
Yeah.
Especially if we want someone else to rethink.
Well, the common approach is like war or tug of war, trying to win.
Yeah, debate club style.
Grant suggests thinking of it more like a dance.
A dance.
Yeah. Adapting to the other person, finding a rhythm, working together. Expert negotiators do this. They find common ground first, show they're willing to shift their view, too.
That feels different, more collaborative, less confrontational.
It requires a different skill set, for sure. Listening, adapting.
And the book talks about motivational interviewing.
Right. That's a really powerful technique. It's not about hammering your point home.
What is it then?
It's about helping the other person find their own reason to change. You ask open-ended questions, you listen really carefully, show genuine curiosity about where they're coming from.
So you're guiding them to their own conclusion, rather than forcing yours on them.
Pretty much. The example was that Dr. Arnaud Gagnier talking to parents about vaccines.
Right, he didn't just lecture them. He asked questions, listened to their fears.
And it was much more effective. It builds trust, makes people more open, works for all sorts of things, apparently.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So taking this wider, how do we build this rethinking mindset in groups, teams, organizations, communities?
A big factor is acknowledging complexity. When you see that problems have many sides, many interconnected parts, it kind of shakes that overconfidence.
Get you thinking more carefully.
Yeah. Amanda Ripley's idea of complicating the narratives fits here. Moving beyond simple good versus evil stories to see the nuances.
And instead of just imagining someone else's view, perspective taking.
Grant pushes for perspective seeking.
Seeking. So actually asking people, talking to them.
Exactly. Go find out directly. Don't just guess. You get a much richer, more accurate picture that way, less based on your own assumptions.
The book had those classroom examples, right? Like the teacher using old textbooks.
Yeah, Aaron. Making students question the source, think critically, see how knowledge changes. Brilliant.
Empowering them to be little scientists.
And things like passion talks where students teach each other, or Ron Berger's critique sessions. They're all ways to build that challenge network, that culture of feedback early on.
What about in bigger organizations? The book mentioned NASA.
Yeah, tragically. The Challenger disaster, for instance, highlighted the danger of low psychological safety.
Psychological safety, meaning?
People feeling safe to speak up, to question things, admit mistakes, raise concerns without fear of being shut down or punished.
If people are scared, crucial information gets missed.
Exactly. Ellen Ochoa, former astronaut and director, made a great point. Focusing only on results can kill learning.
How so?
Because people might hide problems or cut corners to hit targets. She pushed for process accountability.
Judging the how, not just the what. How carefully were options weighed?
Precisely. It encourages more thorough thinking, even if the outcome isn't perfect. It's about building a learning culture, not just a performance culture.
So shifting from fear of mistakes to seeing them as learning opportunities needs leadership buy-in, I imagine.
Absolutely. Leaders need to model that humility, ask for feedback, make it safe to be wrong sometimes.
Okay, last big area the book covers. Rethinking our own lives, our paths, our identities, even careers.
Yeah, this hits close to home for many people. There's the danger of escalation of commitment.
Sunk cost fallacy, basically. Keep pouring energy into something failing just because you already invested so much.
That's the one. We stick with plans way too long sometimes. Grit becomes stubbornness.
So how do we avoid that?
Grant suggests reframing careers. Think of them not as fixed identities to claim, like, I am a lawyer, but as actions to take. I am practicing law right now.
Oh, that's subtle, but interesting. Creates more flexibility. Less identity tied up in the job title.
Exactly. Makes it easier to explore other things if the current path isn't working. Less of an identity crisis if you pivot.
And the book mentioned that people who are most certain about their career plans young might regret it more later.
Yeah, kind of counterintuitive, right? But maybe because they didn't do enough rethinking along the way, they locked in too early.
So we need to check in sometimes on our big life plans, our relationships, what we value.
Definitely. Be open to the idea that what worked or felt right before might not anymore. The book even questions chasing happiness directly.
Really? What's the alternative?
Focusing more on meaning, contribution, connection, those might lead to fulfillment more reliably than just aiming for happy.
That custodian story, Candace Walker. That was powerful.
It really was. She worked at a cancer center, and she rethought her job. Saw it not just as cleaning, but as providing comfort, care, making patients' days a bit brighter.
Found deeper meaning right where she was.
It shows rethinking isn't always about massive changes. Small shifts in perspective can make a huge difference. It's an ongoing thing, this rethinking business.
A continuous process. Okay, so wrapping this up, it seems the big takeaway is overcoming that default overconfidence, those mental preacher-prosecutor modes, is vital.
And cultivating that scientist's mindset, that confident humility, using challenge networks, those are the tools.
Right, whether it's in tricky conversations, using motivational interviewing, or building learning communities where it's safe to question. It's about listening, seeking perspectives, valuing the process of thinking.
And finally, applying it to our own lives, being willing to rethink our paths, let go of sunk costs, focus on what truly gives meaning.
Okay, so here's the final thought for you, listening right now.
Yeah, a little something to chew on.
Thinking about all this, is there one area in your life, a belief you hold tight, a plan you're set on where maybe, just maybe, you could apply that scientist mindset?
What would it look like to genuinely ask yourself, okay, what if I'm wrong about this? Just consider it.
Really powerful food for thought. This deep dive, as always, is just a starting point. We hope it gets you thinking and rethinking. Thanks for joining us.